Well, welcome to the March meeting of PPSV, which is Professional Photographers of Sacramento Valley. We are a professional organization, as you can see right in here, promoting the excellence for professional growth for professionals as well as aspiring photographers. Aspiring would be maybe somebody who's doing something part-time and they just haven't made the complete jump to go full-time yet. So this evening,
terrible picture of me. That's old and I don't like it,
that's
Jim.
what you get for not submitting.
The request is in the mail.
Exactly.
Your name was over.
So definitely welcome everybody. Do we have any new members? Name? Yeah, I got you right there in the middle of the light.
My name is Greg,
Great. Any specialty in photography or learning at all, or?
hobbyist, and I'm a hobbyist. And I'm taking a class at the ARC.
Okay.
And a professor said, look at this organization.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We have Professor 20 bucks here.
Yeah. Which one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Max. My name's Max.
Okay. Any specialty that you're?
I'm really interested in automotive.
Ooh. What?
Automotive.
Interesting.
And is he our college student?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm getting to them.
That is them.
And Kimberly.
Eliza. I heard that there was
Free food?
plays. No, I really like plays.
Okay. Oh, so like events, theater, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Well, cool. Any other students that we have here? Sure.
One more.
Jim? One there. Well, welcome. Hopefully you'll get a pretty good idea what
What are you interested in?
what we do.
I would like to know. What is it?
And so
This is rumors. I'm just letting everyone know.
on a yearly basis, we do quite a bit, and we try to hit a little bit of many genres in photography, as much as we can. Tonight we have David McKay, who we're going to go over some aerial photography. That's what I can describe it, because I haven't looked at his program. But we're going to get into that later on. So, if you're unsure where you find out all of our current information, this is our website. If you haven't looked at it, that's it right there. You can just do a quick cell phone shot of it. And so we have mission statements, which is also on the website, so I won't bore you with reading that. And then with every organization, you must have some kind of a vision, and that is ours. You all can read. Also on the website, he has a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
It's when the president's not here and the vice president can decide what to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving right along. So anyway, as in every organization, we have a board of directors, and this is our what do you call that? The row or I forget the name of it. Anyway, I am the one second from that side over there. I'm the vice president. Everybody who's a board director, you stand up really quick. So you see they got the cool shirts. So these are the folks that kind of help put together this organization, keep it going, get the events going on, many discussions behind the scene, trust me. And if you, as a member, if you are interested in coming on board, we have made it very easy to do so. I'm going to do a background check. I don't know. But these are some benefits that we make available to board members that the regular membership won't be doing. And the best one that I just don't see up there is get 2 free shirts. Very cool. And we make it worth your while as well. There's workshops in there that you can take advantage of by being on the board and so forth. So again, all of this is on our website. This is just kind of an overview information.
Committees, we have sunshine committee.
Oh yes, we do have committees as well.
Sales.
We brought her out of the hospital because of this.
And everybody has a new name out of this.
What committee's there?
Not gonna tell them.
The Sunshine Committee.
She's the Sunshine Committee. See what happens when you get so much sunshine going on? Don't turn around.
It's a little overcast right now. But this is our calendar of events for the whole entire year. Again, also on the website. So as you can see, right now we're in March. Coming up is Jen Albee. She's a friend of mine, actually, that I've known several of us know her here, from Idaho. And she has put together this pretty cool, amazing program on Carvana. Are you familiar with it?
Canva.
That too. That's the other half of the program.
And you get a free car too.
And you get it, along with a t-shirt.
Only one.
This Sunday.
So this is all about marketing, putting it together for yourself. It's a pretty cool thing, so you may want to take a look at it. Next month, this is going to be fun too. Rick Farrow, we're bringing him in from Florida. Rick Farrow, if you've never really heard of him, he is the photographer for all of Walt Disney World weddings. So he knows a little bit about lighting, quite a bit. He's also a, what do you call that? He is, one of the people that sponsored him is Evoto Software. So if you're not familiar with Evoto Software, I would probably recommend you probably just YouTube it. And it's pretty amazing. It's got a lot of AI built into it for reprocessing. And it is super fast, and he is going to do some training on that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a whole bunch of free credits that's going to be going along to these folks who's going to be signing up. Kind of move along. In May, we've got, we have the president coming in.
Yes.
So, our national organization, Professional Photographers of America, the president of that organization is coming out to see us as well. So that's pretty cool. She has a whole workshop that's going on with hers as well. Corey McDonald, for you wildlife and landscape photographers, his work is amazing. As well as he's doing the meeting and the workshop. July, we're bringing more people out from Florida, which is Kelly and Kalina Schneider. To see these two in action is pretty remarkable. There's a school in Texas, it's getting ready to happen next month, called Texas School, ironically. They sell out every single year. They literally will set up like 9 sets. It's like the circus comes in town with these guys. Highly involved. So they've also got a 2-day workshop that's going to be happening in there. Image competition's happening. That's basically a photographer's like heart, soul, and bread and butter. We've got more landscape that's happening there in September. John Grease. Sure. He's actually on the board of directors now, PBA, as well as he has quite a YouTube following as well for lighting, and he's going to go over that. So if some of you really want to wrap your heads around lighting, he's a pretty cool guy to actually start learning it from. Our last image comp for the year will be in November, which is usually the largest. And then December, that's our gala, and that's going to be our awards night for all the image competitions. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, we're gonna do it up big this year, and we like got an event hall, and we're gonna get a DJ, and we're gonna make it. It's been fun in the past. We're gonna make it bigger and really a celebration, and we're doing it early in the month so it doesn't conflict with any other holiday parties. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna add on, since we have quite a few students here that haven't been here before, because you're part of a school membership, meetings are free for you, otherwise they'd be $45 guest fee. Entering then any workshops and image competition, it's the same as member rate. So image competition is $10 an image. You get so much education out of that. It's 15 if you're not a member, you're included as a member. Same thing with workshops, they are additional, but there is a good member rate versus everybody else rate. So once we get you in the system, you'll be able to sign up as a member. We'll do that tonight.
Cool. Yeah, and if you want to know more about the whole competition thing, anybody's got this kind of stuff playing around, they got a pretty good idea on what's going on with it. So that's kind of our calendar. It's on the website. Feel free to go in there and take a look at it. And tonight, main presentation. So I'm not going to go over, I'm going to have you introduce yourself in terms of your background and all that stuff. Because you're...
Where's the guy that did it? Oh, come on, no. Woo! That's the wrong thing. That is my photo, though, I will tell you. And you guys, your president, Jeff Galanowski, works for Ali and I doing instruction on our photo tours. He is in Japan right now. Right after I left, he went there and he got to do that too. So,
And you see how this composition is, that's why he's no longer the president.
wow.
Well, they're say that in the next switch.
How's that, former associate? Former associate.
There we go. All right, cool. All right, so, hey, everybody, yes, it is true that I was a president here way back in 2005, was involved with PPSV a lot, and this is where my wife, Allie, and I met. We got married 20 years ago, this month. I mean, this year. This month. This year. Did you remember it was 20 years? Almost 20 years. And how many of you got to see us speak last year for the what was it, the first?
The open house.
The open house, yeah. Okay. So a little bit of background, and then I'll introduce these guys as well. So a little bit of background on Allie and I, and how we'll kind of go into this. But Allie and I, for those that have been around, you guys, we've served together, all this stuff. We, for years, you know, traditional wedding photographers and portrait photographers, and then we had, after we got married, we built a very high-end portrait business, which was really fantastic. Throughout the course of the time frame of the recession hitting and all that back in 2008. When were you guys born? You guys were probably 2008.
2004.
There was a thing called recession, like VHS tapes, and you know, I was like right in there. So film, there was a thing called film once too.
Not bad.
Still is.
Oh, I know, it's all come back, 'cause it's cool. Yeah. So, yeah, so we developed that, and then during all that time and all that turmoil, we started doing some more teaching. We had taught a lot at the professional organization level, PPA, and all of a sudden it just hit us like, you know, there's always people with digital cameras that always have asked us to teach. So we started doing that, and that took off immediately. So since that time, 2011, when we first did our very first classes, we've taught over 12,000 people around the country, which is crazy. And we have now taken people on photography tours to all 7 continents, at least 3 times now. We have taken people to over 40 countries, visited over 70 countries. Wow. Somewhere around 2,000 people have gone on a tour, tours with us. And so that has kind of been our trajectory. We always said we wanted to travel after we got out of the portrait business, but the way things happened, and we just went with it. And tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of following your passion and dreams. We're going to center it around aviation, just because you like planes and you like cars. So perfect. I want you to know your 2 next members, 3, because you're here, Rivers. Right? So, nobody asked you, Rivers, what do you like? Photography wise.
I like food photography.
I love that. See, I love that. It goes with your hair well. It's perfect. It's great. Awesome.
Another
And who's our other student here?
lecture. Just looking down.
What's going on? Don't talk to me. I want to know. What was your name? Egypt. From where? What's that name?
Oh, it's mine.
No, I know it's your name. It's your heritage of that name. Is that a Spanish name?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I just was curious. So, it sounded Japanese. I just got back from Japan last week. So,
Oh, no.
okay. And what do you like for photography?
I like wildlife.
Oh, great. Okay, so,
And the guy next to me.
oh, and you're a student too?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Jeff. Is that for Jeff Van? No.
Yeah.
See?
I mean, I am Japanese.
Yeah, so, I know.
I like aviation, so.
Oh, all right, cool. Well, tonight, as we go through this, the thing that I want to impress about everybody here, because we've got a lot of different people with a lot of different loves. Many of you and many in this organization are wedding photographers, portrait photographers, coming in as a hobbyist, I saw. And, one of the things that we had to learn as we grew in our photography was to stay passionate. And those that have been doing portraits and weddings for years, it's hard. It's hard to stay passionate and keep up on your skills. And that's why it's important to go and be around others, to be around some of these meetings, to get involved in the national PPA program. All of that is super important. And I can tell you from experience, and I know my wife would say the same thing, and that is that PPSV was actually instrumental in our career. There was kind of a heyday. Remember those heydays? 300 members, crazy stuff back in the late 80s, mid 90s. Yeah, I know, 2000 phone. But there was like this heyday of it, and I can tell you that we learned so much. I'd love to see this organization continue to grow because this is where I'm amazed at how many people say they're a professional photographer. Have you ever been to a professional photographer meeting? No. How are you shooting? Well, I put it on this little auto thing here, and I don't know, and it's like, come on, let's learn, right? So this is a great place to do that, and it's a welcoming place. Okay. So tonight we're gonna take a little tangent into how we got into this. Before I do that, actually before I introduce you guys, we travel the world, which is awesome, and this guy, his name is Oso. He is from Mongolia. And he is our guide in Mongolia. We've worked together for many years. For you guys that have seen our work in the Mongolian eagle hunters, where the nomads with big eagles and all that, our work in Mongolia has taken place simply because of this guy right here, because he knows all these folks, and now we've gotten to know all of them, and it's pretty amazing. And he's a man of many words. He's laughing right now. That's a Mongolian. Anyway, welcome, buddy. He's staying with us, so he's gone to some travel conventions with us. He's been with us for 2 weeks, and I took him flying last week. And tomorrow I'm taking him 4-wheel driving, so I'm going to scare him twice. All right, these two guys, what are you doing? Oh, okay.
So just came for the food.
Okay, well, we're going to get into this more, but we had a team of 4 of us that do this. We're going to talk about how and why that's so important, not only in aviation photography, but in photography in general. What are your gifts? Where do you fit in within what you're doing and the things that you don't do well to give to somebody else that does do as well? I'm going to let both of these guys, I'll give you their names, I'm going to let them tell a little bit about who they are. So this is Richard VanderMeulen. Richard VanderMeulen.
Yeah, I started out, well, obviously as a student like you guys. I started out at Aviation Junior College just down the valley, and I pursued photography. I took every class I could until they pretty much kicked me out. And,
Last year? You're a little old to be here.
then went to San Jose State and finished up my degree in photography and did both photojournalism and fine art. So and a lot of studio stuff involved there, so they have a very nice studio
And
system.
so Richard in the aviation world, both of these guys, Richard and David, they are well known in the aviation world. We work as a team. I wasn't sure how this was all going to go tonight, so it was kind of last minute. It was like, guys, can you come on up and speak? They have a lot to offer in their knowledge. Richard, you have photographed pretty much for every aviation magazine that's out there, I think.
Pretty much. Most of the aviation magazines out there, and a whole lot of aviation magazines that no longer exist. And that would probably be, I would guess, almost 70 or 80% of the aviation magazines that I used to work with no longer exist, which is a shame that we don't appear to have found a way to monetize our industry on the internet very well. My background in aviation goes back, as a little kid I used to draw airplanes, and I got my mom's old camera and took pictures of airplanes, and by the time I was out of high school I had my first cover for a magazine and just kept working on that trajectory. So I hate to say it, but I've been at this for over 40 years on a professional level.
And then David Leininger, and we're going to get into kind of our roles and what we do too a little bit. But David, what's your background?
So I 20 years in the United States Air Force. I've been passionate for aviation pretty much all my life. Built models as a kid, was around airports as a kid. And through that passion led me to the United States Air Force. Well, when I was in the Air Force, I picked up a camera and would go to air shows, and because I was on a military installation already, it was pretty normal for me to walk around with a camera and take photographs of airplanes. 20 years ago, that changed a little bit. I started to shoot subjects on a more regular basis. I had my first air-to-air photography mission about 17 years ago. And it was like a drug. It's like as soon as my feet touched the ground, I was like, okay, let me get on the next one. It was, and unless you experience one of these, it's something that can't be explained. It's
We'll do our best.
We will do our best. But it is a different experience doing it at this level. I've been fortunate enough to be successful in the publications. Richard and I have a book published on aviation.
I have a copy.
Just saying. Okay, sorry. My images have graced the covers of magazines in at least 5 different countries, including the United States. And I've built a lot of relationships, which in this industry is extremely important, with veterans, aviation aircraft owners, operators, maintainers, and things like that. And the photos are great to have, and they're a great experience to do. But it's those relationships with those people, especially veterans, which unfortunately most of them are no longer with us, has been the highest point in my aviation career. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I'm going to just show you a quick video before we get into the program to give you a little bit of an idea of what it is like to do what we do. I really don't like this.
No. Where's the remote?
It's right here. Who's the guy who was doing this? Just a little taste, and there's nothing like actually being in the air. So
That day that this video was taken and created, we photographed 18 airplanes.
yeah, it's unheard of.
Both the morning and an evening shoot.
It's pretty unheard of in this industry to do that. So in the world right now, there are really only 2 companies that are actually doing this in groups like this. Now there are some people, Moose is one of them, that have taken people up, and they do a few people here and there, but we've kind of branched out and said we can do this. And the other company is in Europe, and we're like, we've got something special here. And so tonight, as we get into this, and we talk about what it is that's special for us in this, what I really want all of you, because not all of you are going to go out and do this, and we recognize this. And we also recognize that PPSV traditionally has always been pretty much a portrait, wedding, that's been the focus of it for many, many years, which is great, because that's how many people make their living, right? For sure. But the reality of it is, you've got folks like you guys coming in, you're like, hey, you know what, is there something for me? I'm not necessarily into portraits, I'm into cars and planes, and I still haven't figured out, food, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So, but there's different aspects of photography. You don't have to be locked in. And the other thing is is that what is it in your life that maybe has laid dormant for years? We're going to talk a little bit about that and myself and how this all came to be, because years and years and years of being a professional photographer and then developed into what Allie and I now share, but there's always something that is like something pressing people that they never did, they never got to do. You know, you guys are young now, don't lose that, right? Don't lose that. And all of a sudden you're 70 looking back and going, I never did this, right? And what we want to impress upon you tonight is do what you need to do to make that living. Do what you need to do and enjoy that. But at the same time, is there something else that maybe you could be looking at to photograph? You know, is there something else? Maybe it's just going and being in nature. You said landscape. Maybe it's just going up to Tahoe for the day, getting up early and going to photographing around the lake. You know, if that's what energizes you, that's what we want to impress. So it's aviation. We're going to talk about aviation. We're going to talk about what we do. But in the back of my mind, when I was putting this all together, it was also more about how does this become more than just about us photographing airplanes, right? That's important, we're gonna talk about it, but what is your passion? So, the way this came about is, some of you saw Allie and I speak last year, and I think it was right before that, maybe, it was right before that, this gentleman here, David, he sent me an email. And now David had been on a couple of photography trips. I think you had, and Jeff actually.
I went to Buddy with Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
And I pulled Jeff aside and I said, hey, I got this idea. I said, I'd like to pitch it to Dave, but I want to know how receptive he might be. He goes, well, he gets a lot of stuff all the time. People are always asking about this, that, or the other. And I'm like, well, this is my idea. It's like, after hearing it, he goes, that sounds pretty cool. He said, yeah, I would send him an email and just give him the particulars about it and see what he says.
Yeah, so David sends me this email, I've got an idea, delete.
Yeah. What he does with the other 800 that he gets every
I didn't delete it, but I have to tell you that Allie and I are fortunate. We have a very cool job. We get to travel the world, right? You know, and it's really cool. And we do. We get a lot of people that will email and say, do you need help? Do you need, I mean, Jeff, first, Jeff, your president, I mean, he first went on tour with us in 2016. It didn't just happen overnight. You build relationships, and then when the opportunity is there, it happens. Well, Dave sends me this email, I've got an idea, and I'm like, I don't want to get on the phone with this guy and hear about whatever idea it is. So I'm like, what's your idea? Explain it in an email. Well, it has to do with airplanes. Oh, interesting. Okay, so then I went and I checked out his work, and I was like, holy shit, his work is amazing. And I had no idea. He had been on a couple of tours. We hadn't met yet, but I was just like, oh my gosh, his work is really stunning. And I don't get that a lot, guys. A lot of times people send me stuff and I'm like, yeah, it's okay, it's average. Even if it's professional, it's average professional. We need more than that. We need more than that. And so I have a high bar. And so I was like, okay, wow, this is interesting. So what he didn't know, and it came out later, was I had a passion for aviation. He didn't even know that. I had studied and got my pilot's license way back in the late 90s. I got sailplane, glider license, aerobatics. I asked Allie to marry me outside of the glider on the runway after I flipped her upside down. And she said yes, because they said I was going to flip her upside down again, and she said no. And then I was studying, also I got burned out in photography, and I was studying to be a Delta pilot. And 9/11 had happened and all, it just kind of fell apart. So I, having gone through some life changes, some of you were around when we went through those life changes, Allie and I got married, all of a sudden we got 4 kids together, recession hits, flying just went out the window. It's like, I don't have money for this, I've got 4 kids now, it just went away, and it lay dormant, and I just, always every time, I'm like watching the military channel airplanes, it's always there, but it just never was, gonna happen. So this guy gives me this call, we talk, and he tells me about this idea of going up in airplanes and photographing airplanes. Now I know, so you guys know Mark, Loper, who's a local guy that's an aviation photographer. Mike, Mark, maybe. Great, and I've talked to him a number of times. It's always been there, and I was like, is there a way? Dave's like, I think we can do this and actually put like 8 people in the back of an airplane and do this, like very different. And I'm like, tell me more. So we started talking, and like I typically do when I get an idea I like, I immediately say, well, let's sell it. We'll figure out how to do it. I don't know how to do it, but let's do it. and it sold out in 5 minutes. Boom, it's gone. People were like, adventure, right? Good night, Gail, thank you. And so, you know, we're on to something here. And the first time I did it, like David said, it was like a drug. And then what happened is the drug became an addiction. And last week, Allie and I bought our first plane together.
You bought the plane, and said, okay.
Yeah, but she's all in on it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at aviation for sure.
Yeah.
He's not going to his Aviation Anonymous meetings.
And so that's a fully aerobatic small plane, and it's fun stuff. And so
That was built before your grandparents, so.
Thing was built in the 80s.
oh, 76.
76, sometimes.
It's all been replaced. So,
It's vintage.
you know, where are we going with this? Not only in air-to-air photography, it's, you know, it's not just about airplanes, it's about telling a story. In our case, it's telling a story in flight. Scott, what you guys do, it's about telling that wonderful fantasy world of Santa Claus. You know, if you guys don't know Scott and the Bentons and what they do with Santa Claus photos, it's like, you're like, Santa Claus photos, click, click, click. Oh no. Very high-end, very amazing art. And it's a world that you create a story. Right?
Experience.
It is. There you go. It's an
Exactly, and
experience.
this is an experience unlike anything else.
It's unlike anything else. And so that's where I'm getting at with photography. It's your passion. I'm telling you, you can do this with automotive. You can do it with food. You can do it with planes. You can do it with planes. Right? Okay, so we're gonna talk about the story, and we're gonna talk about some of the logistics and kind of go through some things. And so, again, our goals tonight, I want to inspire you guys. It's not just about air-to-air photography, but it's about your passion in general. Ask yourself right now, what is it that's been laying dormant in your life that needs to come back alive? For me, it's been aviation. You can tell I'm passionate about it. I mean, it's awesome. And what it's doing for me with photography is bringing back excitement in photography again. You might think, oh, you get to travel all the world. Yeah, it is awesome, but it's hard. It is very hard what we do. It's tiring. And when you're taking 12 people that are asking you where the next restroom is and what bank you use and all this stuff, it's not always photography, it gets wearing. So for me, this has become something, I wasn't looking at you about what the next bank is. But for me, it's creating a passion not only in flight, but in photography as well. And that's, at the end of the day, why we're all here, is to be passionate photographers, right? We want to talk about safety and planning. And again, that goes across the board on other industries as well. Camera gear and settings, you're going to be surprised. And, of course, composition and visual storytelling. And all of those things can play into aviation photography, but they can play into any type of photography you're doing. When we talk about composition and visual storytelling, that can play into you're doing weddings. It can play into anything that you're doing, all right? So we're going to talk a little bit about getting into air-to-air photography. This is one of David's images here. P-38 Lightning, it's just beautiful, it really pisses me off. It's really good. You're welcome. But air-to-air photography, you know, it looks like this elite, inaccessible niche. And it does. It's like, how in the world would I ever get into this, all right? And you're into automotive, again, I'm going to keep looking at you guys, you know? But it's like, look, you know what? You can go out now and you can hang around car places, auto shows. You can go out and hang around aviation. You can go hang around ships. I'm serious. Like, you have to think outside the box. You have to be thinking like, not about making money with this right now. Like, I can tell you, this is the least thing that we make money on. Because it's extremely expensive and there's not, I mean, we're talking, you know, $15,000, $12,000 just for our aircraft that we use sometimes for the day, right? Okay, so there's not a lot of money, but what there is excitement and fun and passion. And that will feed into the rest of your work and your job and whatever you do. And it's just cool, right? It's just cool stuff, right? So the key ingredients are this: aviation community. Community. Let's just take aviation out. It's community, right? That is a key role in anything that you do. Community. Who are you hanging out with? Are they Debbie Downers or are they lifting you up? Right? That's a big deal. Because if you're hanging around a bunch of people that are always like, that'll never work, that'll never work, that'll never work, it will never work. We spoke in New Hampshire years ago at their state convention, and there was a guy that, some of you know who Jeff Tchowski is, who's president of PPA, is a very dear friend of ours, and he said, there's this one guy, and he kept, every time he'd say something, he said, that'll never work here. Because I finally turned to him, and he goes, no, it will never work for you. He's like, what do you mean? He goes, because you will not shut up and listen and go, I can do this, right? So what is it that you do that you love, and then be around people that are better at it than you? These guys are better aviation photographers, without a doubt.
And right now, it's almost easier now, actually, not almost, it is much easier now to find someone who's willing to help you than it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s, because when I started in business, the professionals who did this wouldn't talk to you. If you tried to talk to them, they would shut you down, they would not share any information, they wouldn't help you find sources, they wouldn't help you how to figure out how to do this safely. So things are very easy now, to at least get a basis in it.
And that's right here, this community, PPSV. I'm telling you, throughout all the years of PPSV, one thing nobody has ever said about PPSV is that nobody will help me. That is like the key within this organization. I guarantee you, if you need help with something, Jim was talking about competition. You want to know about competition? We can tell you about that bling on his neck, what that's all about, right? I forgot mine, because I'm bad at it. But you can learn from these folks. You can shadow them on shoots. If you get into the moment of, I gotta make money first, you gotta get into the moment of passion first, right? That's what you have to do. So aviation, why I'm thinking about it, Mike back here is also a journalist and an aviation guy. So he's a guy right here locally at PPSV that can help. There was a fly-in, right, I believe, at Oroville Airport, May 16th.
Yes,
Yeah?
May 16th, yeah.
May 16th. And just give a little bit about that, because it's a perfect place. You guys want to go photograph airplanes, go photograph them.
You want me to come up?
Sure, yeah, just share it just a little bit. Mike didn't know I was going to do this. But again, this is the kind of thing that PPSV is great about. Because all of a sudden you have a guy sitting here and says, oh yeah, Mike, he's a journalist and he's a photographer that loves aviation, that does aviation, and he wrote a really cool children's book on a helicopter. Too much.
I'm not really that good. No, I got started in aviation photography, loved aviation my whole life. And like he was saying, it's community, it's the people that you know. Aviation is really tight-knit. The fly-in that's going to happen in Oroville is a fly-in, it's not an air show, right? So the difference is, an air show, you're going to have aerial demonstrations. Planes are doing loops, they're doing stunts, they're doing aerobatic stunts in the air for the crowd. That involves FAA and all kinds of rules and regulations, stuff like that. A fly-in is where it's kind of like a meetup. It's kind of like a car hop or a cruise. Everybody kind of gathers at an airport, they fly in and land, and so you're going to get a lot of, sometimes there's really cool airplanes, sometimes there's not. So you're going to get some static shots of airplanes on the ground, and once in a while they'll do a high-speed pass. It's not technically aerobatic, right? So they might do a high-speed pass ground and then land. So that's happening in Oroville, May 16th, and it's one of the great ways to meet
Free, right?
Yeah, free. It's free. Gonzalo, Pee-wee Gonzalo is the one putting it together up there. He does it every year. And it's a great way to meet pilots. It's a great way to network, meet other photographers, get to know the people. And you're probably going to talk about this later. I'll steal your thunder, but
I don't know what you're about to say.
well, like, if you do meet a pilot at one of these fly-ins or something like that, they go, hey, let's just go up and shoot a P-51 or something. Make sure they're formation ready.
Yeah, we're gonna, get out of here.
There are FAA requirements before you just like hop in a plane. It's not like cars.
No.
And even some of those who have fulfilled the
I
FAA
wouldn't fly.
requirements or Still, maybe not something you want to fly with.
What I can tell you though is, you go to something like that and you hang out, and more often than not, if you connect with somebody there, you might just go for a flight in the plane just because it's cool, and they take you up in the plane. I love doing that. I took Oso the other day, flew out over the Golden Gate Bridge, flew all the way down the coast, flew for lunch, flew back. He'd never been in a small plane. He's like, what plane are we going on? He's looking at this big Jag jet. I'm like, whoa. But you loved it.
Yeah, I loved it in every city.
So that's a great place. They have the air show here at Mayfair. That's another place. The thing about like the air show here is it's different. The fly-in's going to be a community situation where you can hang and meet pilots and talk. The air show is really that kind of, what's the word? It's awesome.
It's organized.
Yes, it's organized and it's very much, you know, the pilots.
And limited.
Yeah, and limited. So they do have, at Mayfair, they do have for the show there, the Capital Air Show, the photographer pass that you can now buy as well, which is super, super, super awesome.
We did that as a group here a couple years ago.
Did you, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it sells out immediately, so you might want to start thinking about that because that's gets you out there. And so you build, yeah, go
Just
ahead.
break in and say, the truckee all over the place, and the great thing is that they're really informal, and that's a place you really can sit down and talk, and the pilots love to talk about their airplanes.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's the thing. That's really what you want in anything you're doing is that grassroots, organic relationship building that then can be built upon because you never know where it's going to lead. And it's a small community, and what happens is people know somebody that knows somebody, and next thing you know, things start happening. But you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to put yourself out there. Again, that's not just aviation. That's anything.
That relates into anything. Wildlife.
Absolutely.
Have you tried to call up the local zoo and say, hey, you know, I'm a fledgling wildlife photographer, I'd like to hang out with a couple of your animal handlers and whatever, take some photos of the animals? The worst thing they can say is no.
Right, exactly.
But the best thing that can happen is they go, you know what? Yeah. Can
We
you
can
come
use some,
down?
we can use some cool
such and such day,
photographs.
or-
Yeah, we can use some cool
For the
photographs.
cars, there are car shows all over the state. And there are car clubs, and you can go to one of those, meet up with some of the car owners and things of that nature, build a relationship, and start that way.
You take a few shots of some cars at a car show, and don't be shy about it. Do some really cool shots. When I say cool shots, I don't mean click. I mean, you get next to that car, you do wide angle, close-up stuff, you get into it, and you get some really beautiful images, and then you find the owner of that car, and you say, hey, I would love to just give you some of these photos. You're in. You're in.
You'll be surprised at how many
Turns out
aircraft
something else.
owners, car owners, motorcycle owners don't have a single picture of their car.
Or people come up and they want to do it, they want to charge them because they're thinking that first, but they're even not that good. When you get into it, the grassroots, those opportunities then will start to happen.
But be creative about doing it.
Yes.
You know, take some nice art type, deco type photos, provide them with your business card, get their information, send them a few shots, see what their reaction is.
And do it quickly.
Yes.
So when we photograph all these planes, one of the things that we do that nobody does, and the pilots can't believe it, they're like, nobody ever sends us the photos. These guys donate their time, a lot of times they're donating their fuel, they love it, and we're doing this photography session, and nobody ever sends them photographs. You guys can tell you, after our last shoot in Tucson, right before we left from Japan, Allie can tell you, I was in my office nonstop, 16 hours a day, editing photographs and getting them to the pilots to the point of, between David and I, we sent a number of our pilots large metal prints at no cost.
cool, whoa.
You know, we're talking, I mean,
They had no idea.
No idea.
They were absolutely floored by it.
So,
yeah, I'm gonna come back in a second, but this gentleman right here, Carl, I sent him a 30 by 40 of a shot you're gonna see in a bit. He couldn't believe it.
yeah.
But guess what? Anytime I need something from him now,
Yep.
boom. And I have to say, where really the passion got in, I got to fly in the back of that plane. And I got in the back of that plane, he started it, it's an old World War II plane, trainer, and that's like World War II planes. And that thing started, well, all of a sudden, we go up and he's like, you want to take, he knew I had been a pilot. I'd flown 24 years, something like that. He's like, you want to take control? Really? It's like, yeah, your airplane. No, it's like, oh, no. But it was like, I got on the ground, like, she wasn't on that show. Oh, yeah, you were there. He's like, yeah. She got to go to biplane, which was awesome. And I was like, a week later, I was at Executive Airport getting checked out again. It was like that passion hit. Now we're friends. He's a former F-16 pilot. He flies air shows, not only that, but something called Red Thunder. And I'm telling you, we have him in our pocket, so to speak, not in the way of like manipulation, but in the way of we've become friends. But it didn't just start that way. Oh, yeah, I'll come out, I'll see. We treated him right. We took photos, we sent him photos, and now I send him $1,000 worth of photographs. And you're like, well, what's that gonna get you? It cost you $1,000, you didn't make any money. Oh yeah, that's coming. That's coming down the future. So, so it's gradual, and then for this aviation, Mike mentioned it, this is something we are going to talk about a lot, because one of the things that we've talked about today when we were going through this is the last thing we want you to do is go, I want to do photographs of air-to-air photographs, and go to the fly-in, hop in a plane, and somebody says, go take a picture of this plane, and they have no idea the right people involved for that to happen. So, involve it in that community, right? There's so many places. You got all these local airports. You just go hang out. I mean, people want to talk about the airplanes. The other day, I met a couple of U-2 pilots, the U-2 spy plane, just because I came in and Scott was there, and he goes, oh, that's Leininger, and next thing I know, we're talking, and he's giving me his number. He's a, U-2 spy plane pilot, for God's sakes. It's awesome. Flying clubs. Suzette Allen. Do any of you know who Suzette is? She's a member here, right? A lot of you guys know who Suzette is. She has out at McClellan, I was going to say McClellan Air Force Base, but McClellan Park used to be Air Force Base. There's an amazing museum out there, Aviation Museum. She's highly involved in that now, and I know she's doing a lot of cool RC stuff as well, about radio control stuff. She's got a lot going on. Talk to her. I mean, between her and Mike, there's aviation. You are it. Like, you got in. They want to share their passion and their knowledge about it. All kinds of stuff. Again, air show, aircraft owner groups.
And you have another really nice display just down the valley at Castle Air Force Base. And they have open cockpit days twice a year. I'm not sure if McClellan does that or not, but at Castle they have a fantastic collection, and a lot of them, they actually now have the cockpits done up so you can actually go and sit in the airplane or photograph the inside of the airplane at least twice a year now. It's just, if you search for them on the website, you can find them no problem.
So the easiest thing to do with aviation photography is what we're talking about, it's start on the ground.
Literally.
This particular airplane here, it's a 1937, it's called a Recall Steerman. That paint scheme is special, there's only a couple that are painted like that in the country. Tom, who owns this plane, spent 400 hours just taping the plane to get it to paint that way. And that is special because prior to the World War II training, there was no radios, and what happened is the pilots would be out and they'd be training, and weather would be coming in, or somebody had to get the pilots back and the planes back. They would send out this plane, and when all the other planes saw this plane instead of all the yellow ones, they'd rock and they'd go back time to get back to base. Allie flew in that plane in Tucson. I got to hop in, he let me fly for about 25 minutes. It was like, why? Because we built a relationship. And we sent him prints. And he loves it. And he loves taking people for rides. Right? But we start on the ground, and there's a lot of amazing things you can do on the ground beyond just the stack aircraft, right? We've got lots of cool compositions that we can do, obviously air shows, fly-ins, and this is, Richard, this is all from the ground, right, Richard? These are all images that you've done from the ground. And talk about this one, because this is something that we do in our air-to-air photos, but we're looking at the possibility of doing some local type things with this, where we light up aircraft where there's not a lot of cost involved for people. So it's like you want to go photograph something cool, and you're like, okay, I want to go photograph these airplanes, but I can't afford this. But what if we could put something together that was really reasonable? Come on out, we take care of the gas for the pilots, and we get you involved. Like, how cool would that be? So what are we doing here, Richard?
Well, this is actually a relatively simple setup. Just they were using 3 lights on this one, but all battery powered, so we can go anywhere we want. We're not having to deal with getting ground power anywhere. And just a short engine run is enough to give you a lot of different opportunities to shoot the airplane. different shutter speeds, different props. If you want just a segment of prop, or you want a whole disc like that, which is for a lot of photographers, it's kind of their holy grail. They want the full disc of the prop. But this has become a staple for us. Everyone really enjoys doing the night shoots. We'll pull out 2, 3, 4 airplanes and just light it up.
Yeah, and it's great because, again, it's a different side to it, but we're outside of the whole air-to-air thing, which runs several $1,000s to do based on the cost of what it is for us. This is something we're thinking we can get a bunch of aircraft owners. These guys are local, by the way. Scott is actually the partner in the plane that we just bought. He's a former F-18 pilot, and he's local. And so we're talking about getting some of these local plane owners and doing some stuff here, maybe down where Kevin owns 2 jets. Cybersecurity did wonders for him. Right? He owns 3 planes, 2 of them are jets, like war jets, like old war jets. And so we're talking about that idea where we know that we can get people involved. Maybe it's not your thing to go up and play, but maybe you want to try something different. Go out, have a cool experience at a really reasonable price. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I just want you to know there's a lot of opportunities out there for various things, whether it's aviation.
Yeah, this is so much more accessible. Just go out and shoot, and we have identifying places all over the area and outside the area where we can do this.
By the way, composition, this is like talking the automobile stuff. You do that same idea with an automobile and an automobile show, you know, and those guys are going to want it. Because they spend a lot of time and money to make sure that's just right. That's 100% true. These are from the ground. This photograph that David did here just blows me away. I can take you to that Airbus taking off. And this one, you were sharing a story about this. So again, all this is from the ground. This is all accessible. Anybody here can go and do, well, this one's a little bit different, but this stuff. This one, what's going on here?
So that one was taken at an air show. This is actually a recreation of an actual World War II photograph that was done in 1942. I always wanted to do this photo, recreate this photo. And they had reenactors at this air show. A bunch of reenactors dressed up all in World War II garb and everything. So I approached them and said, hey, I've been wanting to do this photo, recreate this photo. And I showed them what the photo looked like. And they said, yeah, we can probably do that. So I approached the aircraft owner, told him the same thing. Been wanting to recreate this original World War II photo. I said, would it be possible to use your airplane to do this? He said, well, what would it entail? I said, run the engine, maybe 5 minutes. And he goes, yeah, we could probably do that. So actually, the owner of the airplane, the pilot, is in the cockpit running the throttles, but he's all crouched down so that the reenactor can step into his airplane. So this was taken at obviously an elevated position, but crew chief sitting there checking out the airplane while his pilot gets in his World War II mount and heads off to battle.
All right,
And all done through building relationships with people, grassroots up.
And then when you take care of them, then you've got them. Then they want to be part of it. You know, they want to be part of what you're doing because they know that you actually care, that you're passionate about it, right? And again, like anything, you need to learn what's going on. So these guys are not actual pilots, but they know. I can tell you, Richard knows more about aviation than me, hands down, the regulations. He's like, FAR, FAA, blah, blah, blah. Let's go fly. But, you know, you got to learn the basics on anything that you do ahead of time. So in this kind of sense here, it's passion first, and then kind of the ground roots relationship building and learning about what you're going to do before you ever go and shoot, right? There's this foundation that's got to be laid. In aviation, this starts becoming huge. We're going to get into the safety in just a second, but you have to understand there's a lot of things in aviation that you need to start understanding. You need to understand, first of all, that you can't just go do this on your own, that you can't just go hop in a plane with somebody and then say, hey, you know, I know this person, because a lot of you probably know somebody that owns a plane or has access to a plane, and they want photos of their plane. So they're going to say, hey, oh, David's got a plane, why don't we go up together and you can sit there and shoot? And the first thing I'm going to say is, nope, won't do it. And we're going to talk about safety here, but that's the main reason. And so there's a lot that you need to kind of understand. And one of the things that happens in these shoots when we're not doing just one plane, this is 4, sometimes 5, even more planes that you guys have shot. This was just recently. And what happens is these planes are flying behind you maybe 20 yards. And they're flying next to each other 5 feet. Communication is huge, right? People that know what they're doing. After this shoot was done, this gentleman, Carl, he sent us an email and said that was by far the safest air-to-air photography session he had ever experienced. He sent us that email, and then I sent him the prank. He didn't send it.
Yeah.
But he was honest about it because their lives are at stake, our lives are at stake, and it can be done safely, but it's got to be done right. So Richard, just a little bit on encouraging people on the aviation basics, just because you're really kind of a student of some of this stuff, honestly. He really knows his stuff. We each have a spot in our team that we kind of handle, and for Richard, it's all about understanding this, how the planes need to look, the communications. He's on the radio, so let me see if I got it right, because it's crazy. So we have a plane above us, circling around at 1,000 feet above us. Not 1,000 feet, but 1,000 feet above us. So we're usually we're about 4,000 feet usually, and they're about 5,000. They're circling around. There might be a photographer in that plane as well, and they're watching, right? You're on the horn, you're on the comms with that person, right?
Actually, my only communication direct is with our pilot, and then that is relayed through to the other aircraft. But I can hear what everyone in the formation is doing. So I can hear everything. So, because I need to be aware of where aircraft are so we can direct them and be able to safely move them around behind our airplane and up to the other aircraft.
And Brad is up watching.
Yeah, he's kind of our overwatch.
He's watching everything. So he'll say, hey, this is what's going on. He's getting views. So you see when the cost is coming involved in all this, right? But also the professional side of it. Like, it's not just go hop in a plane and go around. So he's watching, clearing, making sure that now you can bring in the planes for the next session. The other ones are clear, and you're relaying it to the front. And then they're relaying it, okay, come up behind, spread, and like, this is a great, I do this photo, but I really love this photo. But the first thing both of these guys said to me was,
these guys are gonna hate the photo.
I was like, what do you mean they're gonna hate the photo?
Because the most dynamic photos for us, this is a great shot, it's very dynamic, but when they're trained to fly in a very particular position. Or if they're flying a perfect formation, you'll only see one airplane. And everyone else will be staged out, and they line up heads with the subject plane.
The planes are like this, right?
Yeah, so we have to try to break down some of their formation and communicate to them how to change that formation to become a photo formation. It's a completely different animal.
So you see what's happening with experience, right? You know, these guys all have, so this was actually during a formation clinic that they were running. Carl is one of the head guys there. So these guys are all doing their formations, and all. I said, okay, we're gonna do this. And they're, okay, wait, what? You know, all that's going on, right? And safety, again, is paramount, right? So as we get into the safety and planning, first of all, any questions at this point? I know it's a lot of info, and I know it's aviation related, but any questions on anything?
Where's this all taking place?
These shoots were all done in Tucson, Arizona. Dave drove up, by the way, from Tucson yesterday to be here, and so this is in Tucson, Arizona. We 1 or 2 of these a year. Our next one is in August at Wings over Camarillo, which is going to be off the charts because we're going to have jets, we're going to have warbirds, we're going to have all the performers coming in. Anyway, that is a sales pitch.
Well, we do this every January.
Yeah, this one is in Tucson. All right. These are what photo platforms look like. Most people, when they go out and they're doing a photo platform, like what Mark will do as an example, or Mike you'll do, is you'll have somebody in a Bonanza with the door off. That's kind of the typical situation because you've got planes coming up next to you that you're photographing, but it's one photographer that's photographing maybe for a flying magazine or for that aircraft owner. That aircraft owner is paying to have it done, etc. And so that's kind of what happens. And like if we go do some shoots around here with just kind of us doing some things, we'll have Brad, our buddies in Van Nuys. He'll come up and fly for us, and we can do some photography for people. But it's not going to be putting 8 people in an aircraft here, right? This is a skydive airplane. It's called a Skyvan because it looks like this. Looks like it will never fly.
It looks like the box that this airplane came in.
Right? Right, and so that's what it looks like. Now, let's just make this clear. I love aviation. I've never jumped, nor do I intend to jump out of, as you know, a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah.
This takes place at a skydive place, and I was this close to saying, if they asked me right now, I'm going to tell you, I can do it.
Probably wouldn't get into your shoes.
Yeah, maybe, right?
And just perspective on the image on the left, that's shot about 24 millimeters, so that airplane is a lot closer than it looks in that image.
So these planes sometimes 15 feet. I mean, we've had planes 10 feet off the back, I think, that's
Kirby,
our
yeah,
Kirby.
a couple of years over before.
Yeah, the Red Bull, you'll see a photograph of a Red Bull pilot. When he comes up, everybody comes up and they've got formation experience, they're super safe and they know when to back off, the radios are going. And then there was Kirby from Red Bull, now super safe, but he comes up behind and he's like, oh, you've seen those guys, now watch this. And he's like, he's smiling, you're literally looking at him smile at you. Take my picture. Right, it's crazy stuff, right? But you're strapped in, you see we have these harnesses here, it's actually extremely safe. So we're all strapped in with harnesses. We check the harnesses, so David brings all the harnesses, we get you the plane, we get you position, and every harness is then pulled and checked and made sure, unless you don't like somebody.
Yeah.
But no, everything is super safe. This plane, 8 is comfortable. You have 4 kind of sitting or kneeling, 4 standing. You stand, ready to shoot, and then you can rotate back and forth, right? And then, so that's how we do this. What we found that the pilots really like, they're used to having somebody photograph from the side. They a lot of times they'll have this kind of angle where they're shooting. What they don't get a lot of is that straight on photograph. They don't tend to get a lot of that. So, yeah, so safety, I'm going to let these guys take it on this because there is a hierarchy and the photographer is the last thing on that hierarchy. If you've ever been, who's my wedding photographers in here? Have been done with wedding photographers, right? No, that's dwindled. Aviation photographers are a lot easier and safer than weddings.
Only just though.
Right, but how many of those wedding coordinators, right, the hierarchy, and you're like trying to go, I need the shot, and you have to come to this relationship, but at the end of the day, you have to give a little bit, and in this case, photographers, you guys, I haven't had to deal with this yet, you guys have both worked with photographers that think they're the hierarchy, and it's not safe, right?
No, it is not a safe place to be. When I started, there were, as I said earlier, there were very few people who were willing to share how this is done. And I can tell you that when you start on your own, and if you try to go out and do this on your own without taking knowledge from people who have done it before and ensure that you have safe pilots, it can come up and bite you. I've had 2 incidents in my life where we almost didn't make it back because of poor judgment by someone in our formation. And thankfully, we all managed to learn from these things.
You guys are both on that shoot, right?
Well, the first one I was talking about is when I was still very new to it. I went out and I did a shoot with my regular photographer, my regular pilot, and he wanted photographs of his dad. So we went out over the bay in Santa Cruz. We were almost done, and I turn around and I see that my pilot is looking at his subject and not watching for traffic. And the moment I turned around, I saw him. I saw another airplane cross in front of us, and I felt the thud from hitting the turbulence from that airplane. So we missed having a collision by only a fraction of a second. And neither pilot ever saw the other airplane.
That is a huge red flag. If your platform pilot is not looking straight ahead at what he's doing, he's not the person you want to be flying with. They should never be looking backwards.
Oh, yeah, I never flew with that person again. and even if he offered, I would not. That is where we learned over the years to communicate with other pilots that we trust, and we always vet our pilots and make sure that they, most of the time, they have what's called a fast card, which is that they went through formal training, like the T6s we saw in that photo with the 4 aircraft. They go through a very extensive formation training syllabus, so they know how to do it properly and do it safely. But it's again, that community and taking advantage of those who have experience.
This is a very unforgiving environment. Flying is inherently dangerous. Flying 2 aircraft in close proximity of one another multiplies that danger exponentially.
We don't put that in our marketing materials.
No, because we take that worry out. We deal with only professional pilots, that we would put our lives on as far
Which we do,
as
because we're in
trust.
an airplane with you.
And we work with them, and we have briefings, and those briefings outline everything that's happening during the photo flight. And the flight is done exactly as it is briefed. There are no sidebars.
This is what a typical formation will look like, and you can see it's cool, but it's not quite as exciting as those kind of in tight. We're going to talk about some composition things as well. I really do like this one, but you know they're spread out this way, so you kind of have to get rid of a lot of top and bottom by cropping, making it almost a pano. And again, we're going to talk about lens choice. Believe it or not, we're using pretty short lenses, like a 24 to 105. I now use a 24, the new Canon 24 to 240, which is not a major L lens, but it works. It's got this whole range, right? So again, some safety plank. By the way, would it help? I'm going to ask, and I'm going to say it, so then you're going to have to say yes, but I think it's okay. Would it be cool if I sent you this, or dropped it in like a Google Drive, and then people that want this can have this?
Yeah.
The PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can send it out to anybody that was here for the meeting or just have.
Yeah, maybe just if it would help and if you're inspired by the photographs, right? So the way that our safety goes, and again, this is aviation, and obviously the margin of error is, you know, you don't just pull off the side of the road if something goes wrong, right? I mean, so margin of error. So all of this has to be done. But I also, getting back to weddings. I mean, weddings, right? It was the same thing. It's really the same thing. You have a pre-flight deal. You're going through all of this with your couples. You are going through everything. Of course, when they hand you the shot list that says cake cutting, you're like, oh God, of course I'm going to photograph the cake cutting. But it's all there, you know. Who can stand next to each other? Who can't stand to each other? Why? Because if that stands next to that one, then there's going to be a collision, right? It's like all of that stuff.
But above all, pad the timeline.
Pad the timeline. Yeah. So, and then you go through all that pre-flight stuff for your shoots, your sessions, and then you go on to what you're going to be needing, what you're going to be bringing. What is it going to make it for you that's going to make this, in this case, not only safe, but the gear that you have. And again, it's the same thing. I tell you, the worst thing that you can do is show up to somebody's session, and for those of us that have been around, Scott, have you ever showed up to a session and you forgot something and you had to like just come clean and go, I didn't bring this, I gotta figure it out? Yeah. It's the worst because you look like you have to regain their trust, right? So it's, yeah, you forgot Santa! Buddy the elf is like...
That's when he gets his own outfit out.
Right, goes and puts some pillows in, right, you know, so,
Yeah, when I used to talk to brides who were kind of booked, and I said, I wasn't nervous, I worked in the trauma unit. These days, so I can handle that, it's like a wedding.
right?
It really is, it's like.
Yeah, you worked in trauma unit.
Trauma unit's got less
All the
blood.
different players, all the stuff you got to coordinate.
Yeah, you said players, right?
Yeah.
And the mom,
Yes.
right? You've got the players involved. Who wants
Man,
what?
water,
How do you do
knows
this?
everything.
Right. And it's the same in anything you do. So for you young ones that are coming in, I don't mean young as in young, although you are. I mean it as in, you know, you're new to this world of photography. probably the best advice I can give you in business is not going to be your technical advice. It's going to be how to be a people person. Psychology. It's all about psychology. It's all about how to work with somebody when they're not very workable and yet still pull it off, right? And that goes across the board in business, but really psychology is what you need to know and be a great people person. I know, I'm sure all of you probably do, incredible photographers that can get all the bling, they can make all kinds of competition prints, and yet nobody likes them because they're just jerks. They're not easy to work with. I know people that do photography that's average, and everybody thinks they're the best photographer in the world because they're late. It's true. It's absolutely true. And so this goes along the lines of anything you do, you just have to say, okay, I don't need air sick meds, I just need Xanax after this wedding. God, okay, right? And so there's different things. One thing I will tell you as you get into this, and I can't believe, shit, I just said don't forget things, and I forgot it. I forgot it, the little rubber lens.
Oh, your little rubber
Yeah,
lens,
so
yeah.
if you're photographing from a plane that has a glass cockpit, and you know, because that just happens to be what you're doing, you don't have all this going on, it's very easy to scratch an airplane cockpit with your lens. And if you hit any turbulence, any of that. So what we do is we get this little rubber ring that fits over, it's like a rubber lens shape, fits over your camera, it can kind of go up to the glass, and it also reduces glare. So that's a big deal. By the way, if you're photographing through glass, if you ever do this, but think about this again, for anything you do, if there's any kind of reflection, wearing black cuts that way down, right? Just like anything, it's your main things here: shutter speed, lens choice, focus area, aperture. Now, the big thing in aviation photography is going to be shutter speed, because you're photographing a subject that is moving, we're moving extremely fast. And so our thinking has always been, if your subject is fast, you need a fast what? Shutter speed. The problem in aviation photography is, if you use a fast shutter speed, propeller, it's just like they're hanging there. I don't want to be in that plane. It's like turning, yeah, see ya. Right? Okay, so that is the problem. So what happens when we start going into these slow shutter speeds, and you are on a plane standing, doing this, they're doing this, and all this is going on. You saw it in our video a little bit. There's some of that going on, right? What are we worried about? We might get the prop in that full disc, as Richard said, but what then happens to our aircraft? They're what? They're camera shake. A lot of worry.
This is where you are blessed by living in a digital age.
Absolutely.
I started this when we were shooting film, and you had to really trade off because only 36 exposures. If you're doing something dynamic and you're doing aerobatics, you have to time everything, so your time your film changes, and just the sheer cost was astronomical. Like,
You told me today at lunch, you said, I couldn't believe this. Okay, so just to give you an idea, our last shoot in Tucson, now we go to Tanzania a lot of wildlife safaris. Typically, I'm very selective in how much I shoot now because we've been fortunate to do it so much, but typically on a safari, I'll shoot about 1,500 to 2,000 images. Most people, their first time, they're gonna shoot about 3,000 or 4,000 images. On a safari, like 8, 9, 10 days, I shot 10,000 plus images in 3 hours. I've never done that.
And how many hours did it take you to cull through them?
too many.
Pardon my friend, no, yeah, pardon my friend, shit. Maybe, oh, there's a good one. All within, why? Because of this. I can't tell you how many I got that are sharp. I mean, very few sharp, and there's a lot of this. In film days, I can't even imagine. And you told me today, you said, how many rolls was, it was insane.
I did a trip to shoot some military exercises in Hawaii, I flew there with 100 rolls of Velvia and Crovia. I
Which
ordered
is only
another-
360 photos.
which I ordered another 100 rolls while I was there and had it FedExed. And I shot every roll.
And how much did that cost to actually have developed?
Many thousands.
Yeah, just to get them developed, right? So now you've got these memory cards, you're like, oh, the memory card's expensive, it's $63.
My first 2 gig card cost me almost when the D1 came out. It was about $800 for 2 gig.
Being in a digital era, you are vast ahead of anybody else. Because, to be honest with you, pixels are the cheapest thing in photography you're ever gonna have.
And when you saw,
And so, just keep doing that. It doesn't matter how many you have to go through, you only need one.
and you saw the helicopter images, some of those were shooting down at a 30th of a second handheld as they're flying by. So you know it's going to be an extremely low success rate, but you'll get those sweet spots and you'll get a beautiful image out of it.
Yeah.
It's worth time and effort of having to go and slog through all those images, even if you're using a fast program.
So these are some helpful starting things. So what I always tell people, like if you go out and you do this fly-in, or you go to the air show, and you're gonna have these warbirds flying by the World War II planes, obviously get some good shots first. Like that's the thing, right? You got an 8 to 10 minute aerial display of this plane, sometimes less, but make sure you get your shutter speed up faster than this, just to get some good shots of that plane. You know what? You want a nice shot of that warbird coming by. And then you start gradually slowing it down. And what's going to happen on the ground is you have to pan with those, which also becomes a little more difficult. But remember this, you can shoot now 20 frames a second, right? So do that. And then what happens is, these are some great starting points, but what we will tell you is, this has to vary. This is again the digital world, because in film you could never look and see what you got. Every plane we photographed had to have different shutter speeds because the rotation of that blade was different. So sometimes, who said 30th of a second, 40th of a second, sometimes on a helicopter? I mean 30th or 40th of a second handheld shaking, right? You would never do that in a regular situation, right? But if you had done it in film, and you're really limited in what you're shooting, as well as you can't adjust because maybe you can get by with an aircraft, like I think this one was taken, the Cirrus, I think this was around 125th of a second. I got the full disc, but there's other planes, it's 40th, 50th of a second in order to get that full disc.
And then you start running up against the fact that your camera may not have an ISO that goes low enough. So if you're going to shoot something extremely slow, you may actually even have to go and put an ND on your camera.
An ND filter. So isn't that funny where we use an ND filter to slow waterfalls? Now we're throwing an ND filter on because you're out shooting, if it's depending on the time of day, if it happens to be midday and it's really bright, and you're doing like a 50th of a second or 40th of a second, so now you're at 100 ISO, the lowest, right? And your aperture is shooting all the way up to f22, which is great for your depth, right? That's good, but all of a sudden it's still too bright, but that's what you need. So all those videos that we showed, you could see it was, our videographer on that had a dark ND filter to slow the shutter speed of the video down to around 50th of a second on that, right? Light first and then, yes sir. Go ahead, Mike.
Just real quick, rule of thumb is the bigger the prop or the rotor, the slower it turns to produce the same amount of thrust, right? So the smaller the propeller, the faster that thing has to turn to get thrust. So you can use a faster shutter speed with a smaller airplane, smaller prop.
And the thing is again, you can shoot it and then you can adjust. Make sure you get some good safety shots, right? You know? Yes sir.
Are your shutter speeds changing if you're flat on the ground as opposed to in the air? If I'm shooting at the air show and I'm trying to stop a plane or a prop and it's coming at me, my shutter speed is going to be different than when you're shooting from the air
Not really.
The
Okay.
principle stays the same, but you may have to sacrifice and shoot a little higher shutter speed from the ground just because you have so much relative motion. I've shot down to a 30th or so shooting an aircraft coming by, but what you have then is the aspect of the aircraft changes so much that you may have the prop or the cockpit sharp, but in the time that you hand with it, the tail is moved a foot or two
In a
laterally.
30 second.
So you have to go ahead and choose what you want. There are a lot of people who put up these wonderful photographs, and I envy the young kids who be like, I used to be able to do it, but I can't do it anymore. But actually hand hold warbirds at a 30th or so a second and get a full disc. But if you look at it closely, they usually are putting up a really small photograph because they don't want you to see how much of that airplane is blurred, just because the wingtips and the tail, you cannot get them all sharp if you do it in camera.
I have a terrible success rate shooting from the ground on things. Not being honest, just this is difficult in the sense that your hand holding it slow, but it's a lot easier in the sense that your subject is right there, right, as opposed to what he was saying, the relative. So you're trying to get that prop and moving this way, man, it's really hard. I just don't have a very good success rate in that.
It all comes down to practice. It's like if you want to shoot birds, then you have to go out and pan shoot birds constantly, because if you do it for a while and then don't do it for 6 months, you're back to square one when you go back to do it. It's just a matter of practice, 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 and what is important to you as far as that image. Is this important to have the full prop disc, or is it a sharp airplane?
And it comes
That's
down,
really what it comes down to, is your choice.
and it comes down to muscle memory in more than one way. I found back when I used to shoot all the time, I started with film and I shot 500mm lens all the time when there were very few of them out there. But if you shot or you went out and photographed that every week, you develop the muscles that helped you carry that and learn how to do it, because it's a completely learned thing for both the muscles and the interior muscle of your brain to actually do that. A good thing, you can go out and practice panning and following cars out on the freeway. But also going to the same thing, that relative motion, if you have an airplane that's going to do a pass really close to you and you're shooting 200mm, that change is going to be far more exacerbated than if you're shooting something out further away from you with a 500 or an 800mm lens.
Because of your distance to the subject.
Right,
It makes a big difference.
you're sacrificing the field focus with an 800 to a 24.
Well, but if you're at an air show,
Right.
especially a smaller aircraft, you'll probably need at least a 500mm lens
Right.
to get a good full frame.
So
The small ones, you might need an 800 or more.
back to air, you're using the 24 because the aircraft can get closer to you and you're.
Well, in the case that, where I said I was using a 24, I use that. Typically, most shoots, if I'm shooting from an Ansel, I'll shoot two cameras, one with the 24 to 120 and one with the 7200. In this case, the 24mm is just to show and illustrate what it looks like in the airplane when we're photographing. Mostly, I shoot
Like this was taken somewhere probably, I think around 135, 140, somewhere there. That's why I've gone to this lens, it's a 24 to 240. It's not Canon's best, sharpest, most expensive lens out there, but for the tool that I need for this gives me that without changing lenses, because we do not allow people to change lenses in the back of an airplane, because if it drops and goes out, in fact, we don't allow you to have lens shades on, we don't allow magnetic filters, we don't allow anything that can come off your body. Everything's got to be attached, because if it goes out the back and it hits an aircraft, we've got a problem, right? So, but that's not, 400mm, that's like 140. Right? So but it is hard, and again, shooting from the ground is just so different. Jets, It's amazing. You guys that are PPA people, and you always see like a competition, right? The Thunderbird shots always get merit after merit after merit. And I'm like, my God, sorry, I'm judge. You know, I used to do a lot of judging. I'm judging now. That's bull. Because it's like, look, yes, it's a cool shot, but it's a formation of jets going by, and it's like merit, 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 merit. I'm like, I'm just gonna turn in a bunch of Thunderbird or Blue Angel shots, and, you know, because it drives me crazy knowing the difficulty standards. You know, the difficulty standards of doing this stuff versus the Thunderbirds coming by in this perfect formation at a distance that you can just follow. In today's camera, you lock on, you just go, boom, you got one, right?
And you can shoot them at 2,000.
2,000,
no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. Now the aperture's going to vary. So this is again, anything that you do in photography, there's ways that you may do it different than another person. It's like editing, guys. People are like, oh, you gotta use Lightroom. Oh, no, I gotta use Photoshop. No, 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 you gotta use Capture One software. No, 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 I don't care what you use. Do what works for you. At the end of the day, a wrench is a wrench. If it's a crescent wrench or a ratchet, who cares if it tightens the bolt? And that's how we think. So we all shoot a little bit differently. So David tends to shoot, you tend to have some shake issues, right? You said,
Well, I've got dirt damage.
yeah, so right, so because of that, he actually uses a stabilizer,
I use a gyro.
a gyro that helps, which typically video, but he uses it for shooting.
Yep.
You tend to shoot on shutter priority, tend to. I tend to shoot manual, but with auto ISO now. And the reason is I sometimes, depending on the light, of course, a lot of times if it's 40, 50 of a second, it's automatically going to f22, like we talked about. It's automatically closing down. But there are times when the light's lower, and I'm going, okay, you know, I'm at 40th or 50th of a second, or maybe I'm a little faster depending on the aircraft, and I'm at 5.6, and I really want a little bit more depth. I like to quickly be able to change my aperture and my shutter. But with auto ISO now being what it is, it's really helpful because depending which way you're going in the light, it adjusts. We can tell you that in a lot of our scenarios, like our landscape and nature photography, we rarely use auto ISO. And the reason is we shoot a lot of low light. And if you guys have tried your auto ISO, you'll notice that auto ISO sometimes in low light goes from 6,400 to 16,000 without a step, and you don't need to go that high. We can pull it back. So that's kind of what we're doing there. Of course, we have noise reduction software now too. But this is, again, just a starting point. And then you can shoot, you can play with it. Focusing, I'm still, guys, with focusing because continuous focus, with continuous focus, I'm seeing it jump, right? It's like I'm here, and then it's jumping back here, and then it's here. Now that's why that higher aperture can help you a little bit, carry it through. But you know, it's jumping, and so
it's always continuous for me because the aircraft is constantly moving in relation to you.
What I found helped me with continuous is to find a point of contrast for it to lock in on.
Absolutely.
Right? So if I can find something like that, back button focus, and then fire, and then re-back button focus and fire. We do that for our wildlife photography a lot too. So we don't just sit there and just keep going and going and going and hope everything's in focus. It's more like bursts, like focus, lock on, fire. Focus, lock on, fire, 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 right?
And I look at it as the same as you guys do. I would think if the cockpit, the pilot is clear, it's like shooting for a nice sharp eye.
So, and by the way, eye detection doesn't work on leopards.
Eye detection or cheetahs.
It's all eyes.
It's like, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into a little bit, and we'll finish up with some nice images that these guys have done. We're going to get kind of into our composition and storytelling. Each of these guys have some amazing images here. That's a V-17. I'm going to just, we've got to kind of keep it a little bit short here, but let's just talk about your images, guys, because I think there's stories here that are amazing. So, Richard, there's not very many of these. This is the V-17. There's not very many of these flying around the world.
No, this particular one, Thunderbird, was with a collection in Galveston, Texas. It's now been purchased by another collection and is being completely rebuilt, including new spars, which is, they had to almost reinvent the technology to do that. And unfortunately, an airplane I loved for a long time, the F-111, former General Dynamics airplane. These happen to be Australian, and it was a time when the Air Force was good to work with, and I would go out to what they had a red flag exercise, which is a huge exercise of 100 aircraft and aircraft from all over the world, and they would do simulated warfare over the Nevada desert. And I was fortunate enough I could come out and I could fly with them every day for the entire 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, actually, yeah, there was.
Just happened 2 weeks ago. Just finished up 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Yeah, there have actually been 2 or 3 movies about it. One was IMAX that they did, more of a documentary style.
I mean, like a fiction movie, like, remember the actors about when
Yeah, yes, well, there's one dating back to the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's now on Hulu, there's the whole, it's like the Top Gun that the Marine and Navy are doing. And so Scott, I don't know if you know this, but Scott actually taught there at that Top Gun school.
Yeah.
And so he's the one that I get into the airplane with, that we just bought the airplane with. And so the first time I ever flew with him was the other day. We bought the airplane, we'd never flown with each other. We had flown next to each other, but never with each other. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna hear, get this right, you, like the TV shows. And he was like super cool. He's like, nah, that's just the Navy. So, the Marines.
That, it comes down to, when we do a flight, we brief everything in advance. There's a plan that's very detailed, and then the goal is to go out and fly the brief. You brief, you fly the brief, and then you debrief. You come back down, and people always say this big argument, people have fights about it, but no, everyone has to own their own mistakes. If you make a mistake, say, hey, I messed up, this is what we had to change, and it's how we learn and do things better the next time.
So case in point, on this last one, with Scott, I was doing, my first formation flights, right? And before the actual Tucson show did, and we did this brief and then debrief, and it was the same thing. The goal is this is our plan, this is what we're gonna do. We went up and did it, and then afterwards we debriefed. This went really well, and he was the first one to say, I didn't call your call sign correctly, and it caused a little bit of confusion. And then I was like, I didn't do this, and it was cool because I told you, I said, Allie, after that briefing and that debriefing, and we're even implementing it now for our shoot, not that we're implementing it for a month before the shoot, what our goals and what our things are, because what happened in that case was I walked out of that and I go, we're gonna do that on all of our photo tours. We're gonna have a briefing. What is the expectation? What's the client expectation? What's the expectations of ourselves? And then afterwards, we're gonna come back and we're gonna, where did I mess up? Not to but could I have done better? Could I have done better? Could I have done better? And it wasn't about being mad at yourself. It's more about, can we continue to grow? Can we continue to get better? So that's one more thing again, brief and debrief every shoot you do outside of air stuff. So as we get into this composition, that's Kirby doing the Red Bull stuff right behind her plane. Crazy. The color cast on here is bizarre. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good flavor.
Yeah,
It's like
I
yellow
mean,
from
we're looking
here.
at it from the side, I think. Actually, it looks pretty good from back there, doesn't it?
Yeah. So composition and visual storytelling, it's just like anything. It's light direction. It's all the same things, guys. It's light direction. We have an aircraft attitude, but it's your background, your storytelling. What are we looking for? So in Tucson over the desert, this last time we flew there, there was a lot of other airplanes in the area doing formation clinics, so we ended up going and looking at another spot. And then that spot ended up being awesome for our background versus the place we had gone before. So, it's always these possibilities of where can we, in this case, we're moving aircraft around into the best light. I mean, think about that. We're flying around trying to move aircraft. Okay, now we gotta go this way because the sun's coming this way, and that's gonna be really cool so we can see more of the disk. See how the disk lights up, right, with the sun. So all of those things come into play, and what you're gonna notice in my shots, and I've pretty much learned this, I've learned what I've learned in aviation from being around these guys. Again, it's being with somebody that knows their stuff better. And as far as photography, one of the things that both these guys I noticed did was, it wasn't about the whole plane. The storytelling is these pilots and coming at you and being in tight. So I found that I typically really like tight shots. Now that, I swear to you, Wow. That's probably maybe 80 millimeters.
Yeah, 70 or 80.
70 or 80 millimeters. That's like me to you guys, like me to you guys. That's how close he is. And he's just like, yeah,
This is another day at the office.
I'm Kirby Chandler. This guy's like the top aerobatic pilot in the world, right?
And
And
U.S. national champion, aerobatic champion, 7 years in a row.
he's just, he's unbelievable. And, but storytelling, background. So I think, Richard, I think I have some of your images here first. I'm just gonna say, storytelling, I love this. A business, you know, a business plane with the city, your composition is like, well, it's at an angle. Yeah, it is. And it makes you, it's knowing rules and then breaking rules, right? So I love the story of that because I keep thinking, okay, these are business guys, the city, all that. But you guys share some of these images, share my images here.
It's one of my favorite flights of my entire career. Everything was just working perfectly. We had,
Show this together?
yeah, he came along with me on this one. The pilot in the subject airplane, Doug Rosendahl, you know you're getting old when all of your friends start getting put in Hall of Fame and stuff. He was just inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Commemorative Air Force. He and I have done probably on the order of 70 or 80 shoots together. And when you're directing an air-to-air photography mission, you have to learn how the other people will respond to you, because my direction usually starts in, I need someone to move 10 or 20 feet. And with Doug, we're literally, okay, you need to come forward about 5 inches. And it can be that precise. Because you develop that communication together and the trust. I have motopilots that I trust implicitly, and if I have a subject that I'm not quite sure of, Dave and I were on a flight where we had a subject that we needed to shoot, and our problem was we did a lot of research on the pilot, and we found out that the pilot, he had a reputation of being a cowboy and not being completely steady. So our pilot in the airplane with us, he knew that before we went off on the flight. And he could hear from my direction that our subject was not doing particularly well. He was not taking direction well. And if you get into this more, there's a term, knock it off, where when you say knock it off, both airplanes separate, and that is it. And it's usually only done in extreme cases. In this case, this pilot did something very unsafe, and by the time I got that far through knock it off, we were gone. Because I was flying with a pilot that I have flown with, again, he's another guy I've probably flown with 100 times. And
I was too busy crawling through the side of the airplane to get on the outer wing because I wanted to get away from this guy. That's how close it was.
We just had to knock it off on our last flight, and
it was nothing severe.
Nothing severe, but it was enough to. This
is the opposite.
You're lining up
pure
people with
joy.
the background, and you're trying to do it, and then they do something. So we had a situation where the guy it wasn't anything severe, but it was like, okay, he's struggling. And rather than put this pressure and worry about a safety issue, Richard said, okay, knock it off. And then later the guy's like, what? And you were cool, you talked to him, you said, I just need to get a little more practice.
We had a half-hour conversation over the phone later, and he's going to go out and practice, and we'll fly with him again after he's had practice and some time to hone his formation skills.
Because it's very important if we are trying to put a certain background behind you, so it's not now just photographing that plane, but it's we're turning this way, we're turning towards the light, we're doing this, and they've got to be on.
Yeah, and it's very hard, especially when you're in the back of an airplane. You have to try to picture the background that you flew over a couple of minutes ago as part of the orbit, and you have to try to tell your pilot the direction he has to change to put your subject in front of that background. So there's a lot of thinking about how to direct airplanes.
And the flight Richard was talking about where we had close almost to midair, that was 100% totally briefed prior to the flight. What exactly we were going to do in every aspect of the flight. And yet,
That was the pilot looking back,
It was
right?
just, no.
No, this
that
was
the one that almost-
simply a pilot that
Oh, that one.
he simply thought he knew better.
What kind of planes are you flying?
This, I was where we were in the back of an A36 Bonanza, and this is an Epic. It started out as a kit-built airplane, home-built airplane. Then it became a certified aircraft.
Were
This-
you in another F-18 next to these guys in formation?
No,
Would you
actually,
fit? Would you fit? That's my question.
actually, I almost went to ROC, Naval ROTC, but they told me I was too tall.
Can't imagine.
But the one on the left, this was a shoot that was just so smooth and so beautiful, beautiful conditions. We were only supposed to be up for an hour. We ended up staying up for almost 3 hours into complete darkness, just because we were getting such phenomenal photographs. And you asked about the Hornets on the left side, the Super Hornets. That was actually shot from a KC-135. Unfortunately, we just lost one of those in the Middle East. Only actually knew one of the crew members on that one. But this is photographed from the cockpit, literally over the shoulder of the co-pilot. And I had to direct the entire flight because it all had to be coordinated in flight because they were flying from an aircraft carrier that was undergoing communications blackout. We were photographing flying from another air base. So it was all directed in flight. And then the back window that we typically photograph out of, you saw the F-111s where you're shooting straight back. Unfortunately, a lot of them, they leak so much oil, it covers it and you can't photograph out of it. So I had to resort to grabbing a sweatshirt and covering myself and trying to get rid of all the reflections. And the guys I flew with were fantastic. We flew like, I think 4 days, so.
I'm picturing this co-pilot, and I'm picturing you like this, over top of the co-pilot, and I'm picturing these guys looking at you going, what the hell is that?
But that was a great time as well. We had some really proper pilots and some great conditions.
And then there's this. So when I look at this stuff, I just go, oh my God.
Wow.
Like, that, image excellence.
You try to schedule your flights, obviously for the best light, sunrise, sunset, and we were in Florida at a time when they had a lot of nice ground fog in the morning, and we just set it up at that. And then this one, again, you can tell by the distortion, he is very close to us. That was probably 40 millimeters.
Wow. And the distortion plays into it. Wow. Yeah.
But for me, this one I like, but a lot of times I like to photograph with a little bit longer lens, or compositionally, as you said, I don't see a need to see the entire airplane. I don't have to see every wingtip, every piece of the tail. To me, that's not necessary to tell a story unless it's for a print publication where I know I'm going to need a 2-page bleed where they can put text over something.
But this shot, dude.
Yeah, it was magical.
Again, it was
magical.
Yeah.
great pilots, good plan, and a bit of luck with the conditions.
Perfect atmospheric conditions.
Please tell me this is a huge medal somewhere.
Actually, this one is not. It needs to be.
Yes.
If there was ever a medal candidate, that would be, yeah.
Oh, I have a couple other ones that are great candidates. So we photographed the only 2 red-tailed P-51Bs, and one of those is natural metal. And that's a 20 by 30 up on the wall.
Speaking of P-51, so here's some of David's shots here. And so you're using a high aperture here, David, right? I'm assuming with that carrying through on the P-51s. And then this, are you in a Bonanza and he's coming over top?
Yeah, no, we're in formation, we're shooting out the right of the aircraft, and he's slightly above us. And he's banking
But he's on the inside of the turn.
But he's on the inside, oh.
Yeah, look, you're looking up.
Yeah, okay, he was on the inside of the turn. So.
There we were.
Yeah, there we were. And again, this is where experienced pilots and briefing and everything comes into play. And we would just do these racetrack orbits. And as we came around to having him facing the sun, it was sunrise, early morning, beautiful red and orange sky in the background. And like Richard, I would like them tight and close because to me, it's more dramatic. It just creates
Are you guys using polarizers?
I use a polarizer all the time, 99% of the time polarizer. I
And,
shoot 100% manual.
and we photograph in the same airplane,
Yeah.
pretty much sitting on top of each other.
Right.
And I just do things differently. I usually don't use the polarizer, although I'm starting to lean more toward it.
Well, I'm just looking at how clear you're getting into the cockpit.
Yeah.
So you're cutting down that reflection.
Catch any reflection.
Yeah.
So this image, we were at lunch and David said, okay. I said, they're not gonna get it. So intentional camera movement, where you actually, during slow shutter speed, you zoom in or zoom out, that kind of thing. And I just wanna say that also, it's cool to be creative. But David, and I still don't know the story, but he said, no, I want that image in tonight because there's a story here, and it's become one of my favorite images. And so I'm anxious to hear this story. Again, I know we're running out of time here, but I want to hear this. So
You're
So
good
this
on
is-
time.
This was taken at Oshkosh Air Venture a number of years ago. Richard and I were sitting in a ditch with a number of other photographers shooting the air show. And during the pause during one of the acts or whatever, I just happened to turn around and saw this young lady, who is the girlfriend of the pilot, aerobatic pilot that's sitting in the airplane. And I've been wanting to mess around with camera motion, lens motion. And so I tweaked up a few of these shots. And this shot has become my favorite shot, even though it's not perfect. Because we lost her the next year. And that talks about the relationships you build with the people that you work with and how close and tight the aviation community is. Because you never know when you're going to get another moment.
I mean, that's powerful, man. And I think with all of us, those of us that have been doing this a long time in photography, we've all had clients that have become special that we've lost, for whatever reason. We've had a number of clients that we've lost, and friends that we've lost, and you've photographed them at some point in their life. You photographed a high school senior and something tragic happens, things like that. So this goes way back to when we would teach, 20 years ago on PPA and things. And one of the things that we would talk about during our portrait sessions, and it's coming back to me now you're saying that, is, and this wasn't in my head tonight, but photographs are timeless, right? They absolutely are timeless. It's a moment in time. And there were times during our portrait career where it would be like, okay, I don't really feel like doing this portrait today. I'm not in the right mood. I don't feel like it. I'm just not into it today. But that client's coming to your door, and you've got to get in the game, so to speak, And so again, just with that and what David's saying, you're passionate about the subject matter, but you become passionate because of stories, because of real life, because yes, you may love airplanes, but this brings a whole other element to it. And again, that's what I just, keep coming back to, with encouraging you with whatever you're doing in your photography. If you don't feel like doing it that day, it may be, God forbid, sometimes it could be the last time that you ever get that opportunity to photograph this situation. And for that person, it could be even a family that's together, because now as your children get older, people start moving, and when's the last time the whole family was together, right? You never know. And so whatever you're doing with your photography, always just keep that in the back of your mind. This image right here has value, it has merit. It may not be a PPA competition merit, but it has merit. Why? Because you're pushing the button, pushing the shot. Thanks, Dave, for sharing. We're not going to end on a sad note. No. We are going to just talk last little minute here. So this is the difference of flight in one session. Those are the same plane, same session.
Yeah,
20 minutes apart.
20 minutes apart.
If that.
Right? So it's amazing how quick things can change and what you get. And all the images, when David sent me this one, I was just like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, so these guys are talking about 70, 80, 100, 200 air missions, 400. I've done 3, right? I've done 3. And I've gotten pretty good at it pretty quick, and we've developed a business out of it already, right? It's exciting stuff. But I keep looking at some of these aircraft and what they photographed. And this one we were talking about at lunch today, Dave, is I said, man, I'll let you tell about how many times we went around a lot, but what I kept thinking to myself was like, okay, composition-wise, again, we're not able to just like with people, well, let's move you here a little.
He hand-built this airplane. This is a one-to-one replica of a British Bulldog, Bristol Bulldog. He got the blueprints from the Swedish Air Force, who used to fly these back in the 30s. This is a 1929 British Bulldog. And he spent 20 years building this airplane. And this is after he spent 17 years building a World War I one-to-one exact replica airplane, which is in Peter Jackson's collection down in Australia, or not, New Zealand. Saw this gentleman posted a video on Facebook. And I said, I have to shoot that airplane. So I texted him, or not texted him, I emailed him, got his contact information.
And he did like a delete.
No. And I explained to him that his craftsmanship has to be shared with everyone, not just a few people that fly in. And so I have a working relationship with a couple of magazines, and I told them about this aircraft and how it had just flown for the first time, and asked them if they'd like to have it, and they absolutely said yes. So Brad and I flew up to Oregon, we met with Mr. Storrell, sat down with him for about an hour and a half, talked about what we wanted to do, what we wanted to accomplish, and how we did that safely. And how we had to do this because of the speed differentials. This airplane's doing about 70 miles an hour. Unfortunately, my Bonanza will not do 70 miles an hour. At least not unless we're on the landing range. So what we had to do was, as he is flying straight level, we would fly around. And as we would come around to the front or come around to the side, I'd shoot my series of photos. We would go back around and come around for another pass.
All while he is flying over as well.
Yeah, all while he's flying. And so we did this about, I don't know, 8 or 10 times. And so each pass was different, a little higher, a little lower, so on and so forth. And that's the result. We were able to accomplish together.
No,
And it's been in 4 magazines, a calendar, and I sent him the magazines and wrote the story and everything, and he couldn't believe it. He was so thrilled and so pleased, and I sent him prints, and so.
And that's going to be something for him that's going to be not only for him, but it's a legacy of who he was or is, and handed down to his family and so forth. Those images will mean something far beyond, you know, right now.
You know, the other thing is like we're storytelling. So this airplane was painted up for a pilot who flew this in Africa, South Africa. The pilot's parents just happened to be his neighbors. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. It was a brother. Just happened to be his neighbors. So when the publication came out, the story was in there, the airplane was in there, and especially the part where the sardine can was stuck in the back of the airplane, which is where the pilot left it when he was eating while he was flying, and dropped it down into the inside of the airplane and went all the way back to the tail. Well, he put that in there as well because this airplane is a reflection of that pilot and the dedication to him. And when he ran over, as soon as he got it, ran over to his neighbor's house and showed him this, they couldn't believe it. So it affected 2 families. And that's what storytelling can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So folks, that is what we have for you tonight. And our sincere hope is that it's not just about the aviation photography, but it's about being inspired at what you do. And, you know, for you guys that are new, coming into photography, to find that spark, to find that passion, what it is that makes you tick. And for those of you that have been doing photography for a long time, and maybe some things have gotten to the point where the day-to-day is just drudgery, maybe it's something that you need to go out and find something that will click and literally click a little bit more to help you keep that spark alive. Because what we do is actually very important, guys. It really is important. The three of us, we have one more partner that's not here. His name is Keith, and he is a huge part of our team. He's well known in the warbird world, the jet world, and because of him, we're able to get a lot of the subject aircraft that we do, which is truly awesome. And so, so I just want to make sure that we told Keith, you know, getting kudos where kudos is due. We have put together, so under the McKay Photo Tour incorporated thing, we now have air-to-air, air2airphototours.com. That is now what you may have seen in the video, or a couple little images. It's air-to-airphototours.com. The website is up. Apparently there's a couple little spelling mistakes. And we desperately, just for the fun of it, go look at the photos of the four of us and then comment on Dave's photo. I need to get it. Can somebody in here please do a good headshot of this guy? Yeah. So, but we are more than happy as well. I know Mike's here, Suzette again with McCullough, but listen, there is our contact information. I don't know why mine's not highlighted in blue. Maybe don't email me, but listen, if you've got questions about anything that we've talked about tonight, you're interested in getting involved at all in, you know, air-to-air photography, getting out with airplanes, hanging out. I mean, listen, if you're into airplanes and you want to hang out, I'd love to go show you our new airplane. I love to take people flying. Really, I do. I love it. I love it. You know, if that's all it is, but you go, man, look, I'd love to go for a flight. It's like awesome. You know, I'd love to do it. So there is our contact information. Please, I don't know if you can see on David's, that's an underscore up there. Make sure you catch that right there. Please, feel free to reach out to us. I will figure out a way really that I
If you
can.
get me this, I'll send it out to everybody else.
Yeah, be happy to do that and use it. However, you know, would be great. Perfect timing. I don't know what just happened there.